Bird up. All right, we were starting. We have started recording. Okay.
There you go.
4th episode. This one is about
4th.
Yes.
Is it our 4th?
Yeah, because we did the introduction.
Yeah.
We did that was number 1. We
And
counted. 2, sleep. Yeah. 3, overtraining, being under-recovered.
And
talking
4.
About, that's right. And then 4, transitioning to a healthier diet.
That's great. I love it.
Okay. So we're going to talk about how you can kind of move over from eating shitty food to kind of liking the more bitter foods like vegetables and fruit. Well, fruits are sweet, but, trying to get onto that healthier habit, I should say.
Yeah.
And transitioning from away from that, cheap food that's readily available to us, like fast food, which is, like I said, readily available and also stimulates our taste buds in such a way that nobody can describe.
You wonder if we're just conditioned to certain tastes because of that stuff and overexposure to it. You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you said this because this actually says a nice transition into what I was going to actually talk about. So we are kind of destined for failure, is how I should put it.
Okay.
That's what I've kind of discovered through.
Got dark real quick.
I know one of these articles, right?
Yeah.
So once again, how in the past episode we talked about identity and how we're all kind of physiologically the same, or we are what our ancestors were. So we're based on a primal instinct.
Okay.
Per se. Okay, so essentially when we were hunter and gatherers and all that stuff, and that was the majority of our existence and how we've evolved, the sweeter taste, that it was like what should I say? It basically, it's like it was a quick source of energy, so it supplied you with a quick burst of energy which you needed when you were hunting and gathering, right? So you ate like berries, and that gave you the energy. It was like a simple carbohydrate, so that allowed you. Remember we talked about carbohydrates and how that breaks down a lot quicker, and then that gives you energy right away, compared to maybe a fat, which you have to burn all your carbs in order to burn fat.
Right. Yeah. Don't tell me.
What?
The ketogenic diets.
Right. That would be a fat. Yeah. That would be
Yeah.
using fat as energy.
I understand.
But exactly. So. So essentially what this article kind of talked about, it said it makes sense that we as consumers, we favor sweet ingredients because we evolved to do so, right? So sweet foods hold the promise of a ready supply of energy, like I just said. Salty foods contain sodium, which is necessary for our body to function, right? So it has those minerals in which kind of keep us alert, keep our brain stimulating. It kind of goes back to that electrical impulses, right? You need those minerals in order to have fluidity throughout the body.
Sodium.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, see, so this
but it's not strictly so. It's the minerals inside that. You have normal table salt, which it's stripped of all of its minerals. But you have stuff like Himalayan salt or Celtic salt, Celtic gray salt, and that is loaded with minerals. So loaded with good stuff like magnesium and stuff per se. When you have an Epsom salt bath, that absorbs magnesium through there.
Right.
That's a salt.
Okay.
Right.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So supplying that, and that's necessary for bodily function. Magnesium is good for health in general, for muscle recovery, for nutrient absorption, a whole host of things. Iron per se.
Right.
If you're iron deficient, you're going to be really groggy. You're going to be really tired all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not going to want to do anything. So that's why we like salty food a lot. So we've evolved to like that. And now bitter food, on the other hand, that suggests toxicity, which is why our natural reaction is to spit it out.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then it goes into the bitterness is what is called phytonutrients. So phytonutrients is all is mainly in veggies and all that stuff, and it acts as a natural pesticide. So that's the plant's protective agent from not being eaten by animals or us per se, right?
All right. Yeah.
So essentially, the phytonutrients, it's toxic in a way, but despite the phytonutrients being toxic in large doses, it goes back to this kind of saying what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So in micro doses, it's actually very beneficial to the body.
Okay. Yeah. See what you're saying.
And that's what I was telling you earlier, what hormesis is. So hormesis is okay. So I'll define hormesis. Hormesis is the biological phenomenon where a beneficial effect, so improving health, stress tolerance, growth, or longevity, results from exposure to low doses of an agent that is otherwise toxic or lethal when given in higher doses.
Oh, okay. So
Right?
it's like those guys who like drink small amounts of snake poison so that they can become immune to it.
Yeah, essentially resistant. Or I'll give you a better example that actually relates to a lot of people, maybe with, well, I know it relates to me because I have allergies.
Mm-hmm.
So what they say to do, and I heard about this actually recently, not too long ago, is to get like honey that was basically raised from the bees in your local area. So what they'll do, the honeybees, they interact with pollen, right?
Right.
So now, and that's what I'm allergic to. I'm allergic to the pollen of plants. That gets me all stuffed up. That gets me irritated, right?
Uh-huh.
So since they're interacting with it, and then they create honey while also like transferring that in their nest and all that stuff, so it gets mixed into the honey. So now there's microdoses of pollen inside that honey, and now I'm ingesting that honey prior to the summer season.
Interesting.
So now I'm receiving microdoses. My body is essentially taking that, and it recognizes it as kind of like a toxic agent because my body doesn't react well to pollen. So now it can fight it off, and because it's in microdoses, it can fight it off effectively.
It's like a vaccine.
Right. Yes, essentially, right? That's what happens when you get a flu shot. They give you a microdose of the flu so your body can fight it off. It remembers, right? Your body's smart. It remembers how to fight it, and now it has a better chance of fighting it when you actually are confronted with it.
Interesting.
Hormesis.
And that's just building up like antibodies and stuff like that. But does that work the same for allergies? Because I mean, I don't fully understand how people have allergies. Again, it's genetics, isn't it, to a degree?
Genetics, environment, right? So I guess in a sense, your genetics are affected by the environment around you, or basically your ancestors' environment.
Right.
So if your ancestors were, maybe one was working in, I don't know, like a factory that had a lot of pollutants inside of it.
Yep.
That may have altered their genetics inside their body, but maybe not affected them in the long run, but maybe affected their offspring. Right? So that, I think that's called epigenetics, where it was transitioned on. Right? If you've ever heard that term.
I have.
But then
that's
again,
why I think you're right.
that's why I think you're right.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Exactly. So, but still, yeah, it works the exact same. That's why like people praise the like having local honey, and then that being kind of beneficial towards allergies.
Okay.
Is because of that microdose of pollen inside there, which is neat, right? So it's the same thing with phytonutrients. That's why they're so beneficial to your body. So there's a whole host of like there's a massive list of phytonutrients that are included, and it also depends on the color of the vegetable as well.
Really?
So like a green would have, like green veggies would have common phytonutrients involved with them. Purple, like a red onion, and like
eggplant.
Yeah, an eggplant would have very common phytonutrients as well. So it depends.
Why is it based off color?
That's probably just like, I don't know, it has something to do with the spectrum of what they absorb from the light probably. Right. And then that has an effect on the phytonutrients that's produced. It's like different plants.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that in a way, the fact that the color is just a byproduct, no, the phytonutrients is a byproduct of the fact that
of the way the plant absorbs light.
Yeah, and how it can produce whatever kind of chemicals inside of it.
Right, and it probably also has an interaction with the environment around it. So, like, it's based on what predators are there. So maybe that has an effect on it too, because that it's what did I call it? It's like a pesticide.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a natural fighting agent that protects the plant.
Interesting.
Exactly. So that's also good to know. So how can we basically? Well, I don't want to know what's on that. But how can we basically get this into our diet without spitting it out, without like, I don't know,
getting used to just eating that?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I don't know, you could say like you could mix it, like you could start, well now actually, which is interesting, I was also reading in there, is they're dulling the flavors of foods. So they're actually like genetically modifying them to be less bitter. And then they're selling it as a byproduct, and people are actually liking it more because it's getting rid of the bitter taste. But this is getting rid of the phytonutrients inside of it.
That's what I'm like.
So it's diminishing it. Yes.
What's the byproduct of that? What's the problem with that? There's got to be a problem with that. So yeah, that makes
for sure.
sense.
You're just eating like, I don't know. it's not as good as the actual real veggie that you would be getting, but you're still consuming it, I don't know, as a veggie byproduct. So you feel like you're doing the right thing when in reality it's probably not as beneficial as you think it is.
I guess so, yeah. But that's like I made pasta before you came over, and I usually just make buttered pasta. That's it. Like I put chili on it and like that after, but after I was done, I just seasoned it, and I'm like, you know what? I would just chop up some spinach, and I'll throw that in there with it, mix it up. Yeah. I'm having like this much spinach. I don't even have to think about it or taste it because I've got it covered in chili.
Yeah, that is true.
Stuff like that. I mean, I guess
sure you could definitely throw it in and mix it with like a stir fry, like you say, which is great to involve because you actually are getting some veggies in there. But it's interesting you brought that up because cooking also has an effect on it too. I hate to totally rain on your parade.
I know what you're saying though.
But like the more you cook the food or like steam it per se, that actually diminishes the phytonutrients as well. So the nutrient count in it is diminished by some factor.
That makes sense then because I know whenever I'd steam broccoli, the water afterwards is green. I'm sure the people have noticed that too.
Yeah, exactly. And then they use that water as like maybe like a soup broth or something like that.
Yeah, you can.
And then basically then you're getting everything, all the nutrients that's available from that vegetable.
Right. Of course.
But like people love to cook up the vegetable because it tastes a lot better. And then you mix it with some oils, you mix it with salt, right? We're going back to those natural cravings that we have for the salt and
that's why
and
I didn't cook
goodness.
the spinach. I just threw it in there with the hot pasta. I just
good.
Wilted it a bit.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking really good.
Fucking mint, dude.
Oh damn! I thought we weren't gonna swear on this.
I know. We always slip one in there. That's okay.
Anyway, interesting though.
I know. Yeah, very.
Because that's got to be the hardest thing. Is like I know that was for me because even now I've just like if I try to eat healthy now, but like if I'm at school, I didn't bring food with me. I'm not gonna bring food with me. What am I gonna do? Warm it up in a microwave that's just sitting out in the hallway?
Yes, that's precisely.
So sketchy.
I microwave my food in a truck that has been sitting there for like that microwave has been there since like for 30 years. Jeez. Yeah, and it never gets cleaned. Oh, so I got to make do with what I got when we're mobile. Right. Like that's why the truck's got all inverters on them, which is nice. So
no, that's true, but
like it's much better than having some like dry ass chicken.
Like I at least try when I go get food somewhere else, like to eat healthy there. Like if I'm at school, I'll go to Subway. And
try and actively think what is the best thing I could possibly have on this menu.
Even
though mostly it's all processed.
Right. It's hard to get your taste buds adjusted to it, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? There's that period of time where you have to kind of overcome. So it's like I'm pretty sure there was like a study done with like younger kids or whatever. Like you could introduce a food to them and they probably won't like it at the beginning. But if you keep on just reintroducing the food and then even maybe them not even eating it, but them seeing you eat it, that will actually cause them to say, you know what, I'll take some, I'll try some. And then there's an amount of, I think they have to like have it like 10 times before they actually start liking it. So it kind of goes, and you could relate, anyone could relate really, where it's like, that's coffee. Because the first time you had coffee, you're like,
I hate it so much.
This is so bad. How does anyone drink this?
Yes.
And now we're all addicted to it.
Oh my God.
Because at first we had it for the effect.
Yeah.
Right? That's why everybody drank it. Now we've just become accustomed to it. It's become a habit.
It's true.
And that habit is now somehow integrated into our system, and our taste buds now enjoy it because they know the effect. It feels it. And that's somehow remembered in your mind.
It's that acquired taste, right?
Exactly. Same thing with beer.
Yes.
Right? First time you have beer, you're like, oh my God, Dad, how do you drink this?
Yep.
And now here you are getting drunk every Saturday.
But that's interesting you bring that up because I know a buddy of mine who used to work with me in the kitchen. He grew up like his whole life, and I think he was like in his 30s or something like that. Grew up his whole life, and his parents were like, they fed him very clean, very like very clean diet. Is the best way I can say that. And like from then on, he doesn't like any kind of processed foods or anything like that. Like he'll have it and be like, I don't know. He'll have a burger and he'll be like, no, I'm gonna make it different. And like
Yeah.
Put some feta on there. Like, he just makes things healthy automatically because those flavors are good.
Yeah, because that's what he likes, right?
Yeah, to him, those flavors are good. Like, I'd come in the morning, I'd be making eggs and bacon for myself, and he comes in with a shake that's like breakfast in a shake, like egg whites and kale and beets and like,
oh my god,
the most disgusting thing. Where he's like, "This is so good, man." I'm like,
just accustomed to it. So broad. Yeah, it's interesting. And so brought in at an early age, right? You can totally alter the way kids actually perceive about it. Yeah. Because now that's all they know, right? That's all they've been fed, which is good. And they felt the effects of having that healthy food in their diet, and like felt maybe the effects on their body and maybe on their brain too, their thought process. And now you introduce them with some shitty fast food, and they're going to feel the effects of that, and what that affects on their body and what that affects on their mind. They'll be like, I don't like this. Once again, it goes back to like that natural response. You'd be like, your body's like, oh, this is not beneficial towards me. I don't like this, and now it's a turnoff every time you eat it.
Right.
So that flavor reminds you of that feeling that you felt. That's what I find now. Okay. Now that I've I meant to bring that up. Now that I've transitioned over to a healthier diet from what I used to be, like let's say in grade 12 when I was having, like I would have Big Macs and Whoppers like in the same day and just not give a shit because I wouldn't be gaining weight or anything, but I'd be eating everything just for the taste bud pleasure, right? Just for that palate quencher. But now. And then I started introducing kale shakes into my diet. So that's how I first started, right? Yeah. I heard Joe Rogan talking about it. He's like, I make this kale shake every morning, and it makes me feel amazing. It makes my body feel great. It makes my mind feel great. And I'm like, I could be like getting an advantage here. Why am I not trying this? So I was like, fuck it. I'll try it. Yeah. So I did it, and I was like, holy shit. Like, he's right. Like, you feel amazing after this. So I got addicted to that feeling. Yep. And that was the slow transition. Like, people think it's a fast transition over like a short period of time where you transition from from bad food to healthy food, but it's very slow. Like, it took a process. It took a lot of learning too, because I didn't necessarily know all the ingredients that I was already eating in my food. I thought I was, those breaded chicken breasts that you just get in a Michelina's package or whatever. Yeah. You think those are good, right? Chicken, because it's chicken, it's protein. No, man, like that's not good. You got to read the ingredients. You got to look if there's like cornstarch in it or modified cornstarch or fructose, glucose, all that bad stuff. You got to be aware of that stuff.
Yeah, man.
Right. So that was a slow progression as well. But once again, it's going back to that feeling, remembering how you felt when you ate this food and not remembering what it tasted like really. Right. Because I find the feeling you receive totally trumps the taste at a certain point. That's why I have more self-control and can say no towards donuts every time I walk into Tim Hortons.
You're going to feel crappy after.
Right.
Interesting thought I just had. Okay, so do you think then that the modern diet that's encouraged by society in the way of fast foods and processed foods, do you think that the reason we don't think too much about it is because it goes so well hand in hand with modern activities and daily activities? Why do I care if I feel like crap because I just had a hamburger? I'm just going to sit in front of the TV and watch TV for the rest of the night.
It could definitely encourage that. You could fall into that loop. Once again, it gets to habits, right?
Right. So in a way, since we're not like as kids going out and running around and playing, we don't feel like that, I feel crappy and I don't feel good because I had like a bunch of candy before I ran around today.
Right, you don't think about that.
Right, because you're not physically doing the activities to reinforce the fact that this food's making you feel bad.
You just think that's normal.
Exactly, you think, I was just going to play video games tonight anyway, so I mean, I don't feel crappy. I'm just going to sit here. Right. Like, it doesn't, like if you were running around after eating all that stuff or going out and playing basketball.
You'd feel the effects of it, right.
Exactly. And then you'd be able to recognize it.
Right. Maybe, I agree with you.
So maybe in a way, modern activities and what's like considered entertainment nowadays is a big influence on that.
Right. Maybe technology had a total effect on the human health as a whole. Maybe not recognizing it. Maybe it was like a type of chain reaction, right? You introduce all this entertainment and technology and this preoccupation that has totally induced the whole human mind into, because it's so intoxicating that it's totally strayed away from the awareness of what the food has an effect on you.
Yes.
That's an interesting
follow-up question. Tell me if you've noticed this, because now I'm thinking about this and I'm wondering if it was if it's a coincidence or not. But for me, dude, I watch no TV anymore.
Same
I
here.
never watch TV, and I almost wonder if the fact that I've been eating better is a factor. I've been eating better, and I feel like I have more energy, and I want to do stuff. And if I don't do stuff and I lay in my bed and watch YouTube all day, I feel terrible, and I feel like this was a waste of a day. Like, I had so much energy earlier. Like, I wonder if
I feel like that could be a factor for sure, but I could also feel like it's a mindset too.
That's true,
right? Because that, yeah, as much as you're saying you do have more energy, but I think it's a culmination because we all like we started going to the gym like very often now. Like, it's been habitual. It's become a habit.
Yeah.
So now you've recognized when I eat shittier, I don't have my full potential at the gym, and I can't perform the way I can perform when I eat good.
Yeah.
So maybe that has an effect on you. And then when you watch TV all day, you'd be like, I just feel like a bag of shit after.
Yeah.
So instead, maybe I'm going to take the time to prepare a healthy meal. Or I'm going to be productive and I'm going to get this done because I feel good, like I'm aware.
Yeah.
So maybe that also has an effect on it.
So would you say then that a good start or a good way to transition to a healthier diet is to have your daily activities mimic that in a way? You know, don't sit in front of the TV and,
Right, because that'll induce a bad behavior.
And snacking and stuff like that. Go work out and you won't feel lethargic and sit at the TV and go, I got nothing else to do tonight.
Yeah, and then working out also, being specific here, but working out right after a workout, you don't want to diminish your results of what you just did. That almost forces you to have a healthier snack or have a healthier meal, because you're like, shit, well, I don't want to go to McDonald's and then totally backtrack what I just did at the gym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that could have an effect.
I mean, I think
so. It's kind of tricking yourself in a way. You could do that.
It's true. And I mean, for you, where you think about this stuff a lot because you know a lot about it, that's definitely something you can recognize. And I just feel like for me or anybody else who might just be starting out a diet, it's harder to recognize the fact that, I just worked out and I want to make sure that I get the most gain from that. So what's the healthy stuff? Like, you don't think about that as much.
Right.
I didn't, at least when I started. And you think more just like, I worked out, so I'm good now. That's a lot of people's mindsets, which sucks. And I think that putting yourself in a position where you change a lot of different parts of your life at the same time in small ways can help you make that transition.
For sure. Well, I think that also goes right back to goals. Like, what are your goals?
Yeah.
When you're going to the gym, you're going to have a goal at the end. What do you want to do? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to put on muscle? And then that goal can somehow conceive in a way like you to look into or research how to obtain that goal more effectively.
Right.
And then that just gets to the unfolding of, I need X amount of protein after the gym. I need to refill my carbs because I just totally diminished them. This is what it says on this website. This article says that. And then you culminate all this information together, and then that affects your whole routine as a whole. And then that becomes a habit. And that's where that healthy habit setting comes in.
Right.
And then it's become so efficient and so effective that you don't want to stop doing it.
Yeah. And once you start seeing the actual benefits that you get, I think that's a big factor too.
100%. Results are everything.
But so
become addicted to it.
I don't know if other people have this thought, but for me, one of the biggest things that always deterred me and pissed me off about just the world of health and nutrition news and all that stuff is I hate how every food that I think is good or people tell me is good, an article comes out and apparently it's a little bad for you actually.
I know.
I hated that because for a person like me who started out knowing nothing, it's so confusing that you almost just want to be like, I forget it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I've said that before.
Before, yeah, for sure. No, I can see it. It can be very frustrating, right? Because you could literally go on the internet and find an article about something having the fors and then against, and then you can read them both and then base your opinion on that. But once again, I guess you got to look for more of those reliable sites and not just give up on it completely, right?
Yeah, it just
you got to see what the general consensus is. And I know, like, for example, there was like an article about like coconut oil or whatever, and how it was like clogging arteries or whatever because like there was a lot of saturated fats in them. But now there's new studies and like a whole host of studies that say saturated fats are good for you,
right?
Like 100% good for you. And coconut oil is extremely beneficial towards you. It's also very beneficial if you want a quick release of energy because it's a medium chain triglyceride, which is completely like it's absorbed quickly by the system and converted into energy right away.
Okay.
Right. So it's a smaller chain, so it's broken down easier. You have longer chain triglycerides.
Yeah.
And those take more time to
such as
break down.
If you can give me an example.
No
big deal.
Way to throw me off. I don't know.
Sorry.
Probably like an avocado or something like that.
Oh yeah,
right?
really? Okay.
Because there's plenty of fats in that, and that's not really seen as a pre-workout type meal.
Yeah.
Because it would probably sit in your system a lot longer and it'd take longer to break down.
Okay.
But coconut oil, it's like that. It's a base.
It's quickly broken.
Yeah, it's the type of triglyceride in there. Triglyceride is basically fat.
Okay.
But yeah, for example, like I was saying, for example, there's articles that say it's bad for you, but you got to take that and say, I don't really think that's plausible because of this article, because it says this, and then you got to look at your real life experience. How is it affecting you? Well, every time I have coconut oil, I don't feel like shit. I feel good after, and I've been having it for X amount of time, and I don't see real negative benefits towards it. I don't feel any chest pains. I don't feel anything like that. Maybe down the road, we'll see. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe I'm doing the right thing because the consensus of articles says this.
Yeah.
And there's just a small portion of people who want to do that. There's always want to be people who prove something wrong.
Yeah, I know.
That's just out there, right?
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. But just to argue the fact that to go from like a mindset of someone who isn't as driven as you, trying to make this change, it's still frustrating, obviously, but it's also you know that feeling when you go into something and you realize, wow, I know nothing about this and a bunch of people know more than me.
Yeah.
And I feel really intimidated by that. I feel like a lot of people have that issue. So what would you say like is a good way to combat something like that? You know, like obviously self-education, huge thing, and it's definitely something people should always do. But I'm just trying to think if there's a better way for people to be encouraged to actually learn more.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I'd say it goes back to the effects, like the results that you get from it.
Okay.
So like try it yourself type deal, and then if you benefit from it, that should be the motivating factor that would get you to learn it. Yeah, there's going to be people who know more about it than you, but don't get like, I don't know, kind of disappointed from that. Like use them like to kind of get more information from, like try and pick their mind about it, be open-minded about the whole aspect of it, and don't get discouraged when you don't know something because nobody knows everything, right? So just getting out of that mindset and then trying it for yourself. Because going back to what we said before, once you see those results and once you see that effect, like I said with the kale shakes, that's when it becomes an addiction. That's when you get interested in it because you have a personal experience that you can attach to it, and now you can relay that onto other people, and that kind of, it makes you feel like you're spreading the right word. It makes you feel like you're spreading that positive energy towards other people. I hate to get hippie, but
no, dude, yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're on a roll.
Like I don't know, that just feels right in life. Like if you go back to the principles of life, like making other people happy, that I feel like that's the most, like it, nobody really knows what this life's about, but I feel like that it feels like we're going in the right direction when you do that, you know, making other people happy, because that makes you happy in turn.
Right.
It's not making yourself happy. You know what I mean?
Philosophical
yeah,
over here.
I know, just a little bit.
It's a good answer, though, man.
I'm trying to like.
I agree with you. No, it's very true.
Yeah, but no, that was a good question, and that was
it's a tough one.
Yeah,
solid answer, man.
Tough
solid
answer. Thanks, dude.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
But I agree with you completely.
Yeah, no, that was good. I actually had another thing I wanted to talk about. It was an interesting TED Talk I was looking into, and I totally forgot I had this. But if anybody wants to look it up, it's called The Pleasure Trap, and it's about health and habits by Douglas Lisle. No, Lisle. Lisle. I'm retarded.
Lisle.
Doesn't matter. He's a psychologist. Okay. But basically what I did is I kind of summarized the whole thing, so I'll kind of go over it. But
Okay.
it totally relates to this type of deal, right? Because the pleasure trap is basically is that trap that you get into when you're eating that unhealthy food. Like, how do you get out of it? Okay.
Definitely.
So what he did, so he started with a question. So the perplexing question of why we do what we do. So if we know the right direction to go in, why don't we go there? Is basically what he's asking. So he did a study. So there was a study done with these birds called gray shrieks and shrieks.
I think I know what you're talking about, actually.
Yeah. And one of the things the male gray shriek or shrieks is known for doing is killing insects and poking them on thorns. Okay. So why do gray shrieks do this? The answer is sex. So the females will fly around and see which male has the most bugs on thorns and then mate with them. Right. So it's like it's kind of like
fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating because no, just that alone.
Yeah,
because,
go on.
Yeah, like the wealth of people it attracts.
Yeah.
Or it's like the best hunter type deal.
Man.
Anyways, so instincts for survival and reproduction, how the male gray shriek is built. So it's built basically right at the top is genes. The body and the brain are both constructed by genes. Then it goes to neural circuits and instincts. So it involves in senses, so sight, smell, taste, feel, hear.
Okay.
Then it goes to feelings. So basically is the way he knows how to make the right move. So it arises in the system that compel him to have certain behaviors. And then it goes to thought. So this is like the chain of commands of basically why he does what he does.
Okay.
Right. So the first thing he's going to act on is genes. Next thing he's going to act on neural circuits. Next thing, feelings. Next thing, thought. So thought, activating information in an ancient library built by the genetic code, where he figures out what the right move is. So basing his action on what the previous momentum was of his ancestors.
Okay.
So his ancestors put all these insects on thorns. That's what got them to mate with the females more. So now he's going to act on that process.
So like learned behavior, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then behavior. So the behavior he does, as we see, are circular in a fact that they feed into the statistical likelihood of the genes being on the planet. So his behavior is going to be a direct influence of spreading his gene.
Right.
Okay. Spreading his offspring. So everything is a part of a symphony that increases the likelihood of those genes being here. So that's what he's acting on.
Okay.
So feelings and signals, what we're going on to next. When something in the environment, some environmental cue, is evidence of something good for the genes or good for the statistical likelihood of gene survival or bad for it. So feelings are either good or bad signals, whether they serve the interest ultimately of the substances that built the entire machine in the first place, which is the genes. Okay, so motivational triad. So number one is pleasure. So that involves food and sex. 2 is pain avoidance. 3, energy conservation. So this is what motivates that gray shriek in order to do things, right? First one being pleasure, second, pain avoidance, 3, energy conservation. If you could do all 3, that's amazing. It's the best thing you could do. You could be genetically, what's it called? What am I looking for? I lost it.
Give me a simple word for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think.
Genetically advanced? Genetically?
No, genetically like, shit. Never mind. I'm just going to go on.
Okay, no
I
worries.
lost it.
Keep going.
So the experiment. So here's the experiment of what they did. So the male gray shriek was put into a cage with 2 buttons, a blue and a red one. The blue one allowed him to go into an area where he will collect bugs and put them on thorns for the female, right, to have sex. The red button is a trapdoor that opens and releases a female ready to mate. He will always choose the red button, not only because of pleasure, but because he avoids pain and conserves energy while doing so. Right? So he's skipping those steps of having to collect the bugs and then put them on the thorns.
It's the simplest way for him to complete
right.
the task.
So he's going right to the thing. So all the boxes are checked off. That's the button he's going to choose every time, and they confirm that. Okay. So, and then the next thing, now the red button changes to a release of cocaine directly into the brain of the bird. The blue button releases the female. When the cocaine is released, it causes a spike in the dopamine levels, which ultimately is the pleasure stimulator. We know he will choose the red button because he will conserve energy doing so. So if the cocaine keeps getting replenished, he will keep pushing the button, even if he gets hungry or thirsty or very tired, or even if the female in the cage, or even if there's a female in the cage, he won't even look at them or look at her. What he will do is keep hitting that button, and in 10 to 12 days, he'll be dead. So what he is doing what he is doing is he is thinking and feeling and being extremely, here's what I wanted to say, biologically successful, right?
Okay,
when in fact, he is being self-destructive. So what we have done is by messing with the environment, we've actually misguided the instincts. So now this creature thinks it is doing good when in fact it's being very, is doing very destructive things. So think about this.
Okay, so hold on. Let me see if I've got this. Pleasure trumps all, basically, is what you're saying.
Right.
We are biologically wired to always accept pleasure over everything.
Right, as long as we can conserve energy doing so and avoid pain.
Right, in the simplest way, right? And we will take that above self-preservation, which we automatically assume is what is our number one priority.
Right, because we're feeling that pleasure, since we're going through all those, since we're checking those boxes off, that is in our instincts of being, going back to that, biologically successful. So now it's all based on environment. So think about it. We have set up a system, like our cities are now have these giant like constructed buildings that house all the food you need to be biologically successful, right? Now there's cheaper food that is more processed and bad for you, but it's cheaper. So now you're conserving what is called money now, which is energy, essentially, because now we use our energy in order to produce money.
Right, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Thought process here.
And then, sorry, what was the other point?
Avoid pain.
Energy, avoid pain.
Right.
I guess you could say the pain of eating something that's not as good.
Well,
It's
or
not technically pain,
or making food yourself, right? So it's a lot better to make food, or you can go out and buy it and it's already prepared for you. So like going to a fast food joint. So biologically, you're being very successful by going to a fast food joint because you are fulfilling your needs, you're fulfilling your hunger, you're fulfilling your pleasure, and you're avoiding pain, and you're saving energy while doing so, right? So it's just like you're doing the right thing. Genetically, you're being very successful because now we got all our boxes checked off. Now we can spread our gene because we don't have to worry about getting food. We don't have to worry about a place to sleep. We don't have to worry about all this stuff because we already got it covered out. So our environment has become so it's like we've nerfed ourselves essentially.
Yeah. So it's kind of ironic then because
we've set ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, the very like biological instincts that we have are what's kind of screwing us over.
We've created a red button that produces cocaine.
Well put. Well put.
Right?
Yeah, dude, I hear you. That's interesting.
Wow. When I heard this, I was like, holy shit, this makes so much sense. And there's a graph if you want to look it up. Just look up the pleasure trap graph or whatever, and it'll show you. I'd like to move this, or if you want to come around and check it out.
Yeah, let me check it out real quick.
It's pretty cool.
All the way around.
There you go. So basically, there's phase one. You got whole natural foods. So you'll be in the normal pleasure zone, right? It won't be too stimulating. It won't be too bad. And then you got the early introduction of processed foods that spikes it way up into the enhanced pleasure zone, right? Because now your taste buds are extremely satisfied and they're like, wow, this tastes really good. Yeah. And then after that, after having it for so long, neural adaptation to junk food. So then you get desensitized to the junk food and it just becomes natural, becomes everything you eat in a day, and you don't get that amazing spike when you have, let's say, like when I have a cheat meal once a week. Like that is the best meal I've had the whole week, and I'm extremely happy compared to a person who's had that every day.
So it's like creating a new benchmark or a new baseline for you to go off in the way of like your standards of what's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you can go into phase 4, which is reintroduction of a whole food or natural food. So this is what happens when people try and introduce that healthy diet into their system after already acting on a processed food type diet plan. Is they go right into a what they call it here, a subnormal pleasure zone. So you don't have any pleasure from eating this food at all whatsoever, and it's very disgusting to you, and you're like, why am I doing this? But if you continue past like a couple, I don't know, days or weeks or months, per se, you go to phase 5, which is a restoration of full pleasure sensation to whole natural foods. So now it becomes better. It actually, your palate enjoys it more. And I think that, and also like the effect that goes along with that is the feeling that you receive from that food. From now your body receiving the right type of energy and the right type of nutrients. Mm-hmm. Now it gets sensitized to that.
Interesting.
So you can see that's the pleasure trap where it dips down into here, and here's the trap, right? Yeah. The trap is essentially phase 5, where once you start reintroducing those healthy foods, you're stuck in this phase where everything is not pleasurable and you're not enjoying what you're eating.
It's like getting stuck in a rut.
Exactly. And that's where people totally regress back to what they were eating.
It's interesting. Man.
It is interesting.
Huh.
So we return back to the question.
Yeah.
If we know the right thing to do, why is it so difficult to do? The reason is because when you start at phase 1 and you go to phase 2, when you do the wrong thing, so basically starting to eat like shit, it feels right. And when you're at stage 3 and go to stage 4 and you do the correct thing, it feels wrong, right? So that's kind of what I was just saying, is when you transition from bad food to good food, like it doesn't, I don't know,
no,
you don't feel as good.
That reminds me of something, but yeah, okay.
What does that remind you of?
Totally off topic, but it makes it easier for people to relate to this. What's his name? Dustin from Smarter Every Day. Great YouTube channel. He had a whole episode where he mentioned one of the I don't know what you call them, welders, because he's an engineer, and one of the welders in his shop, they took a bike and they reverse engine, like they made it so that the gears for the handles, if you turned left, the bike turned right.
Oh, okay.
Right? And he could not, for the life of him, ride it. It was literally impossible because his brain had been wired a certain way over time. It had been so well, and this actually goes really interestingly into our relation to children and this kind of phenomenon, is his brain after so long was wired to know that if I turn left with these handles, the bike will turn left. So he would turn left, it would turn right, he'd fall every time. It took him 8 months to finally rewire his brain and learn how to do it. And he would bring it to to talks that he had at universities, and people would be like, yeah, I could do it. No one could do it. It's just not possible.
It's wild.
And then he went into on, I forget where he was. He was in the Netherlands or something like that, and like there's tons of bikes there, right? So he, for the first time, he got on a normal bike again and couldn't do it. He couldn't ride a normal bike anymore, and everybody's looking at him like he's stupid, right? But it took him 10 minutes or so, and then he finally got it again. So really? It's that idea of rewiring your brain. I feel like the first time is the hardest time. It's that initial rewire that takes so long. It took him 8 months to learn how to ride this bike.
Mm-hmm. I wonder how long it would take him to, like, after he got like the normal bike back and he did it in 10 minutes. I wonder if it would take him less time. Well, it probably would in order to do the other one. And it's that first hill that's the hardest to get over, I think. And interestingly enough, he would bring his son with him, and he made another little bike for his son who was like 5 or something like that with the same mechanic, right? Oh yeah.
It took his son like a week to learn how to do it, because the plasticity of his mind was still as a child, it's still there. Yeah,
you could say.
So he could pick it up, no problem, and he could go back and forth very simply. It didn't take him nearly as long. Where it took Destin 8 months. And so in the way of teaching kids at a younger age to eat proper foods. I was just about to say, this is why it's so important to stress this at an early age. Yeah.
And why I don't know why it wasn't stressed enough when like we were in school and all that stuff.
Yeah, because as children, your mind, you have that neuroplasticity where you can develop these things, and after a while your mind, it sets like cement, and it's very hard to reverse something like that. Yeah,
exactly right. Well, you become so ingrained in your habits.
Yeah, of course. Right? And that's exactly what I mean. Yeah,
it became a habit, and that's the power of habit.
Yeah, man.
I gotta read that book, man. I gotta get into it because now this is interesting.
Is it like psychology?
Yeah,
I might want to read that. That's pretty cool.
It's exactly about that. It's like goes into that. It's actually interesting. Okay, so for people who want to check this out, this would probably go right into this topic here, but it's called "The Power of Habit" by Charles Duhigg. Well, I said that completely wrong. Duhigg.
I'm not sure.
Duhigg. Anyways, kind of a quick debrief of what the chapters are like to get you. So part 1, the habits of individuals. So that goes into the habit loop, how habits work. The craving brain, so how to create new habits. The golden rule of habit change, why transformation occurs. Then part 2, so the habits of successful organization, keystone habits, or the ballad of Paul O'Neill, which habits matter most. Starbucks talks about that, habit of success, power of crisis, which is interesting, I think. Once you go into crisis stage, like once there's like a huge issue, you can kind of get your shit together, you know what I mean?
Oh, like that stress that pushes you to the point where you have to adapt.
Yeah, it's kind of like where you've been eating like shit your whole life, and now the doctor says, hey man, you got like a month to live unless you change this.
Right.
And you're like, oh.
That's,
okay. Time to get my shit together. There's crisis.
Yeah.
So that could be a total, like...
That's a good point.
Yeah, a total game changer. And then how to target, know what you want before you do it. And then part 3, it talks about habits of society. So kind of get to know that, the neurology of free will. That would be an interesting read. Anywho, yeah, I hope to get into that. But if anybody wants to do that, it's I've heard it's a good read, and I'm only into the, what's the first part of the book called? Prologue?
What's that?
You know what I mean? The prologue? Like the first part?
Oh, the part 1? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Prologue. Yeah, it's prologue. Okay, I just want to get
I
just wanted to get the word right.
Yeah, no, I see what you
want to sound like an idiot.
That's interesting. I love psychology. It's fascinating to me, so I might take a look at that. Steal that from you.
Steal it from me. Once I finish it.
I want to look at I want to get a book by Gad Saab.
Gad Saab.
That's so cool.
A beast.
Evolutionary psychology. I don't know if it's psychology you'd call it that he studies. Totally forget, but it's all about evolution. It's fascinating. There's a lot to do with this.
It is it's a different way of looking at things and why we do what we do. So going right back to this, right? It's getting into the psychology of humans and recognizing our mistakes when we're making them. And it's I don't know, if it almost feels like at a certain point you don't have control because you've been operating on this momentum for so long. It's just like, it's just natural. It's a habit. And it's I don't know, it almost feels restricting. It almost feels like hard to change.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? I think the best diet for me was, like, I feel like people who are like, yeah, I'm going to go on a shake diet and only drink like shakes, or like completely cut out carbs for like a month. I don't think you're going to actually do that. Maybe you will, and very good for you if you do. But I think the best diet to start out with was the one you talked about. It was the don't eat shit diet.
Yes.
I loved it. It was perfect, you know, because it gets you in the mentality more than anything. When you go, should I be eating pizza right now? Because it's dripping in grease. It looks pretty good, but... And then I would start feeling crappy after, and I'd be like, I knew this was crap. And I feel like there was a psychological connection that way. Because I'd have pizza like that. I'd go to Capri, grab a slice of pizza, so good pizza. But and then afterwards, I'd be like, I knew that was bad. And now I feel
you feel like shit.
And I don't even think maybe it's not even the food that makes me feel like crap as much as it's probably...
It's more like a placebo, if anything.
I feel like that's a little bit of it too, is me going, you knew that was bad, dude. Now you got to feel like crap. I'm going to make you feel like crap so you can remember that.
You know the decision you made was wrong, and now you're going to pay for it.
Exactly. And
mentally.
So that's why I think that's a really good thing to start out with.
Exactly, right? That's what I said when I was presenting my presentation in front of the grade 7 and 8s, all 2 of them, because we didn't get a best turnout, but still, that's 2 who didn't get it before. Dude. Regardless, that's what I said in the if you could take away like one thing from this presentation, the nutrient side of things, or sorry, not the nutrients, but the nutrition side of things, is if you don't remember anything, just remember I call it don't eat like crap diet. But couldn't say shit. Exactly. Yeah, but don't eat like shit diet on that. Is what I like to say. It's more straight to the point. Is if you don't think it's good to eat, don't eat it. It's probably your gut feeling is, ironically, your gut feeling is the right feeling.
It's really sad that this stuff isn't encouraged in schools and like
I know, right?
high schools and grade schools. I guess I understand. High schools, you're starting to develop a sense of what do I want to say? Don't tell me. Individualism? No, independence. That's what I wanted to say. Individual
Identity.
But, yeah, and you're starting to make these decisions for yourself and decide what you want to eat and what your mom's not packing your lunch all the time, maybe. And you know what you like, you know what you don't like. So it's good, I feel like, that seems like that's a good point to start teaching kids this. And, like, for example, all right, Eric, we're back at high school. What's the one thing you get when you have $5 on you in the cafeteria? What was the one thing you would get?
Oh, I got those fries.
The fries.
Seasoning.
Every time you would get the fries.
Oh,
Everyone
so
got
good.
the fries. And that was the thing. And it was just so...
Crack fries.
Yeah, it was so... And they had salads there, but,
No, like yoga mat salads.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But... And that's the thing. It was just like, oh, come on. It's a huge factor. It's such a big factor.
Right? Just serving shit at school. Like it's almost like they're encouraging it because that's like the most pleasurable thing on there, and they just I don't know. Like the other stuff, like you said, the salad was not even remotely pleasurable. It probably wasn't even good for you at a certain extent, and that's why you're like, why would I get that if it's not even good for me already? I might as well I got money and I don't have a lunch. I'll just get this
on a
plastic hamburger.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Hamburgers are disgusting.
They were in like pre-packaged little things too. They were just all wrapped up in the foil, and you just grab.
What are the cookies made with? Like mayonnaise?
Oh my god, those! Yes, I heard that. I remember that rumor. They made mayonnaise, and they probably did. Those cookies were so moist, but
they're ridiculous.
But see, and this is an interesting issue, is because there was like a whole movement when they were like, when parents would go like, oh, we need to get all the pop machines out of schools, and we need to all the candy machines because that's what's making child abuse. No.
That's not it. You're missing the point.
Exactly. I feel like when you do that, it's because I remember being a student and thinking that's dumb. I'll just go to the store and buy candy. That's not deterring me in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, it almost makes you want to rebel.
And that's the mentality of those kids at that age. Yes. It really is. It's, oh, you're going to take my candy away? Well, I have more candy then.
Exactly.
I don't care. It's and I feel like, oh, they're really missing that point.
Well, it's almost like, kind of to get off topic, but relates completely to that. It's like the gun issue.
Yeah.
That people are having. They're saying, no, we need to take away guns, and that's going to solve everything. No, that's not it. It's a mental health problem. These people who have guns are making the wrong decisions, and you need to sit them down and like psychologically analyze them.
Yes.
And see whether they're capable or ready to possess a firearm. I
agree with you, and I truly believe that there's a mentality of possibly the older generations that I feel like we as a generation differ as, and I really wonder why. And now I feel like I'm going to sit alone by myself for an hour and just think about it. But is that those generations, they prefer to avoid a problem by simply getting rid of it, as opposed to addressing the problem by educating.
Yeah, it's right at the source.
Yes,
you gotta go right to where the problem is originating, and that's in the brain of the person who's holding whatever it is.
Yes, you need to educate people, not take their things away from them like they're a child.
Yes, that's 100% what it is. It's almost like you're restricting them, right?
And I feel like that's either it's a generational thing, or it's just the people who have the ability to make these decisions want a quick and easy solution. And I think that's not going to help. That's why it's good that they have programs like that where you can come in and talk to kids. It sucks that I wish they would have made that like a mandatory thing.
Yeah. No, it should be, right? Well, because kids aren't going to do that. Well, especially the way it was kind of set up with us. It was on a Friday, and I totally understood. I was like, dude, if I was a grade 7 or 8, and they told me there's going to be a presentation on Friday after school at 7 to 8 o'clock, I'm not going to be there.
7 to 8?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Why would you show up at school like that?
No, like...
Yeah, if it was right after school,
Yeah, get off of school, go home, just like, oh, finally the weekend. And then... they're like, oh yeah, the presentation that's there. I'm not gonna go to that. Are you kidding?
Or like the two students
go back to school.
Yeah, were the two students you had at least like interested?
Yeah, the one was like, kind of interested in it, and then the other one, her mom had like ties within what we were doing, the program what we were doing. So she was just She just kind of like she always
Yeah.
tags her along as this type of
Yeah.
deal. But she was still like she was an open-minded
good.
girl, and she like took to it quite well.
And you know what? She'll be that girl who's working out in the
She will be
gym and
she will be the one that's ahead. I can totally tell it, right?
healthy
And that's
yeah.
And that's just from a parenting standpoint, right? Her mom's totally doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Is it really affects the way that you plan the rest of your life too.
Mm-hmm.
Like just in me and the point in my life that I'm at, and thinking about what I'm doing for work, I'm literally doing it and going, when am I going to be able to go to the gym though?
I know. Eh? You're trying to
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
out, trying to
yeah.
fit things in.
Because it's really something I don't want to give up. It's really something that's made me feel a lot better, and I like it.
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah,
Feel the benefit, and you don't want it to go away.
Yeah, you do. And another thing is, I think people, they look for the benefits in the wrong places. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like people are like, "Oh, do I look bigger or do I look less fat?" Or so like they're looking for a visual improvement more than a behavioral
Yes.
improvement. You know, and really that's the first thing that's going to happen, and that's a really important thing that people don't recognize.
Exactly, because that's
You
what
know?
ingrains that habit inside of you of always,
Yeah.
always returning to the gym.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
we were talking about that today.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. 100%. Yeah, that was a good little tangent we got off on.
I forgot what we were talking about. Yeah, that was really good though.
Well, yeah,
Which
we
is-
were on this, and then we branched off, which was good. We covered a lot of, I don't know, you could call it psychoanalytics or whatever the hell it's called.
This is what I mean, man. Yeah, man, I have some questions ready. I don't need questions.
You know, questions. got on the top
I'll
of the
come
brain.
up with
I
them.
say some words, I make some sounds with my mouth, and then all of a sudden, boom,
Huh.
questions.
Yeah,
I had
man.
never thought of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though.
No, exactly. But
And that stems from the mentality of wanting to learn more.
that's right. Being open-minded, very important. Another thing I feel we all should be entitled to as human beings.
Mhm.
Be open-minded. Do not be set in your ways, because if you act like you know what the fuck's going on, you are the farthest thing from experts. Bam! And introduction to the next podcast. No,
Well slipped in
that
there.
was sly.
Did
my
you do
friend.
that on purpose?
I didn't.
You
I didn't
did
do
you?
that. You set it up.
I heard it and I was like,
Oh, might as well throw that in there. That's hilarious.
well done.
But just to sum up this this presentation I was talking about, this
Yeah.
TED Talk, I was gonna finish that points I had on it.
Yeah,
To be
yeah.
real quick to kind of maybe get people to think a little differently about it, but I'm sure they already will. So anyways, going back to that third to fourth stage where you do that right thing, right, eating the good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
going from bad things, and it feels wrong. So your motivational system is completely spun 180 degrees against the problem. Every instinct in you is telling you to seek the most pleasure for the least pain and least effort. But when the issue being heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, etc., this is about the time that you key in and begin to make the change in your lifestyle. So that goes back to that actually
Right.
crisis that we were talking
Yeah.
about. Wow, that's cool that was set up like that. I didn't realize that. So you realize the direction you're headed in is the wrong one, and you need to start going in a different one.
Mm-hmm.
When we start going towards healthy food, we see what happens. We go to phase 4. So now we have the answer that we started with. But how do we get out of this? We go from phase 4 to phase 5. This is essentially recovery, and if we do that, we can get more sensitive to food, and now it tastes better. Whenever you have a very intense stimulus that's outside of the normal balance of stimulation, what is going to happen in the brain and the sensors are going to get dulled. So it is going to defend itself against high intensity stimulation, and will back it down. We will end up in a process which we call habituation or neural adaptation. This is very similar to walking into a house where delicious food is being made and you smell it, but the smell is good. But if you stay in the house for long enough, then your nose desensitizes the smell to where it becomes normal, and you don't smell the smell anymore.
Yeah.
It's cool, eh?
I know exactly what you mean by that. Yeah.
So that's the exact same thing with that's kind of a short term, but long term that can also happen with food,
Right.
which is interesting. So the problem is it takes several weeks to accomplish that. Very few people fail trying to do so. Or I guess it would be a lot of people fail trying to do so.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I know what you
So
mean.
essentially that
That's a good
was
point.
the
That's a good way of putting it.
the whole presentation in a summary type deal. But like I said, don't give up, right? You know there's going to be a hard part, a hard stage. There's going to always be a challenge to overcome. But once you overcome that challenge, you'll feel so good. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if the challenge is more pleasurable. Like once you're done, like you look back on it and you look at all the trouble you've been through, and that's almost more pleasurable than arriving at the point you're at now. Mm-hmm. So you just got to think about that. Yeah, when you're in that state.
Yeah, the gratification you get from something like that afterwards.
Thinking about the shitty times, it's interesting how that's more like stimulating than the final point, than the finish line.
Yeah, dude, it's like when we started doing Stairmaster and I hated it. It was so bad. And then after like the second time doing it and I beat the amount of floors I got the last time, I was like, yes, finally. It was awesome. I love it. I hated the whole thing through, but it was totally worth it in the end.
No doubt, eh?
It's so hard to see the light at the end of that tunnel, but
100%.
The
journey is the best part.
And I think that's one thing. People try to jump into it too hard.
They do,
and then it overwhelms them, and then they give up. And I think I've done that a lot too.
Well, that's a good point. So that you brought up. So jumping into it right away. So trying to do it all at once.
Yeah.
So that's a big load to take. It's a lot of weight to carry.
Yeah.
And what? So here's a good kind of point to take away from this is try and implement one change at a time, and then go from there. So kind of like what I did, how I got started. I didn't even realize it, but now that I'm thinking about it, was that kale shake. That was the one change I made. Mm-hmm. I still ate like shit the rest of the day, but I would always have that kale shake in the morning.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely it branched off and became more a part of my life, where I started being more aware of what I was buying and what I was making and what I was putting in my body.
Mm-hmm. You got to find that one thing that gets you interested, that you like your kale shake, that one thing that you're like, oh, okay, I feel better now.
Exactly. Make that one change and stick to it day to day.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a habit. And then you can grow on that.
Yeah, and in the way of habits, in the way that you eat, that's one thing it improves. But I feel like just like the activity of going, I have to wake up a little earlier. I'm going to make my kale shake, get it ready, blend it up, all that stuff. Just you doing that then puts you in two spaces of time where the one you didn't do that and the one that you did, you're now in a different spot where you've started your morning in a different way. You've changed a ritual and you've changed a habit just by doing that one thing. So you've also influenced the way that the rest of your day is going to go, as opposed to sleeping in that extra 10 minutes,
I heard it. I was just reading that in that book.
Yeah?
Dude, you just word for word set it off. Yeah, because that's like they were talking about someone trying to quit smoking, right?
Yeah.
Or sorry, someone trying to they set a goal to like across a desert or something like that. Mm-hmm. But they knew they had to take certain steps in order to do so.
Yeah.
One of them being to quit smoking. Now, quitting smoking, that alters your entire day, because you had those sections of the day of where you're smoking. Now you have to like combat it with something else.
Yeah.
Or put something else in that spot, which is more than likely a healthier habit.
Yeah.
So running instead.
Yeah, man.
So you said it point on, dude. You hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, and that goes back to habits and beyond eating healthier, but just the way that you change the little things in your life that can allow you to eat healthier. And it's like it kind of goes back and forth, right? You eating healthier changes your habits in a better way, and you changing your habits can give you the opportunity to eat healthier. It's kind of like a give and take, I feel.
No, for sure.
And then, oh man, I just had another thought too, and I totally forgot what it was.
Shit. It's probably really good.
Oh, they're gonna kill me.
Lost her?
What?
Said you lost her?
I think so.
Damn. That's okay.
I could probably get it back.
No, try and do it. I'll try and hit you with something that was really cool, because since you are a chef, you would actually really enjoy this. It was so. What?
Sorry, I was
just shaking your head.
Yeah, I get nothing. Anyway,
so
go on.
Cook bitter better. So kind of what I took away from this part of the article was bitterness gets in your gastric juices flowing. So beginning a meal with something bitter makes good sense. This could be a bitter. Wow. I'm gonna say appetizer.
Let me see it.
Jeez, aperitif. Aperitif.
Yeah, aperitif.
I was like, what the hell is that word?
What that means?
I forget what that means.
Let me see what context is it.
Maybe it's like the beginning
aperitif.
meal?
Yeah, I think that's just a fancy way of saying appetizer. I could be totally wrong.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I think that's what it is. Or it says right here, or a first course.
Yeah, it means appetizer. They just wanted to be fancy.
Yeah, with a touch of bitterness. So bitter greens stirred into a soup or pasta, for example. Rich, fatty dishes can be tempered and rendered more desirable by pairing them with bitter green vegetables. And a little bitterness in a multi-course meal will help cleanse your palate. So introducing that bitterness before may alter your main course. It will make it more pleasurable.
Yeah,
because you're getting your taste buds used to like that end of the spectrum, and then here's the other end of the spectrum. So it goes from like bitter to fucking amazing.
Yeah,
in like one shot. So it's kind of cool how you can structure your meals to be more pleasurable.
it's a good point.
Yeah, which is interesting. Which I thought like it's a whole new way of cooking.
And that's like the kale shakes. Like I remember when I first got kale, I was like, oh, I don't want to turn this into a shake. That sounds gross, and the texture. And I'm like, I'll just eat it. I'll just eat it and screw it. I'll eat it by itself, and whatever. I'll power through it. And I'm eating. And I'm like, this is so gross. This is terrible.
So
but then I was like, screw it. I should just try the kale shake, and I'd put and then I'm like, oh, I'll try some pineapple or something like that. And you get the different foods in there, and you're able to either mask it, or you can. Or I could have something else ahead of time, or have that first and then have a better. Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's
exactly. It's really, it's really neat.
Damn chairs,
Squeaky
chairs. I know.
Oh, that's bad. Another cool thing, which I thought this is more visual than anything. So even the plates you use and the music you play at dinner time can alter your perception of the food's bitterness. Yeah, you like that, eh? So serve the choir. Oh, geez. Cha. I am so bad at pronouncing words.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Turkey salad.
I love words, man.
CHI.
Where are we at around here?
The highlighted part. Somewhere here.
Oh,
Something salad right there.
I believe that's chicory.
Chicory.
I'm not sure.
Nice. Well, you're
That's
a
a
lot
spice.
more better than pronouncing words than me.
A lot more better.
Yeah, I know. It's bad, eh?
It's all right.
Anyway, so serve the salad. Chicory salad.
God, I want to know what that means.
I know, eh?
I know I've
With
heard that
a
word
round
before.
plate, and it will taste less bitter than if you do it with a square one.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
Don't get me started.
Whoa.
On that stuff. It's so crazy.
Psychology. And then
the environment around you.
exactly right. And then it says here,
Fascinates
avoid
me.
low pitch, solemn music played on a brass instrument unless you want the food to seem more bitter. Instead, choose bright, high pitched piano music, as it will diminish your impression of bitterness. Taste after all is created in the brain. So,
dude,
yeah. So you wonder why they're always playing piano at like a really nice restaurant while you're eating your filet mignon.
Yeah, it's all part of it. It's fascinating.
It is, man.
Yeah,
And that's why they're such like a distinguishable restaurant, is because they have everything.
Yeah,
they've mastered it. They've mastered the meal. They've got all their boxes checked off. They got the scenery. They got the environment. They got the perfect plates.
You made me think.
I know, Megan. I knew you'd like this. I thought about you, bro.
Stop now. Oh, God.
That's cool, though, eh?
Brain's not going to stop.
So think about...
Sorry. I remembered what I was going to say earlier.
Yes.
It's not that exciting. Wow.
Wow. Well, because I introduced the plates and the music.
Yeah, now I'm less excited. What I was going to say, just to get it out of the way, and then we'll keep
go
talking
ahead.
about this, was one of the things that I've been doing to help me eat better, that I find helps me, I don't know if it would help anybody else, is like a little while ago there was like my dad brought home this cake, and it was like a chocolate fudge and caramel cake, and I was like, oh my god. And I was looking at it, I'm like, I really want to eat this. And my mom was sitting at the kitchen counter, and I'm like, Mom, do I want this? She's like, what? I'm like, this piece of cake. She's like, nah, you don't want it. I'm like, all right. I don't know why. Like, that's maybe me. I like letting people make decisions for me in a way, because it's easier for me to accept things, because I'm extremely overly analytical.
You're just checking.
Yeah, I don't know if that would help other
else.
people. Try it.
Sure, yeah, exactly, right?
Try
it's worth a try.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Anyway.
That's
oh my
hilarious.
god, that's so cool. Though.
I know, eh? The bit of persistence. Yeah. I think that's basically all I got. I think this part that I was about to say here. It got into what I was saying about when you're introducing children to food, about basically like they don't like you have to introduce it to them like 15 times before they actually start liking it. Or a good way to maybe like it yourself is to watch people eat it around you. So like maybe your parents, like I never liked tomatoes. You could even say salad, for instance.
Same.
I would never eat salad, but they would have it at every meal. And now I fucking love salad.
Yeah.
And I want it at every meal. So it was just seeing them eat it and seeing them enjoy it that made me want to actually try it. And then when I tried it a couple times and be like, oh, this isn't too bad.
Yeah. You know what I find that's interesting about that is, like all throughout my life, my parents would try to make me, I was a really picky kid, but my parents would try to make me try different things. Especially my dad, he'd be like, just try it, you know? I'd be like, no, I don't want it. It looks gross or whatever when I was younger. And I remember a specific moment where my mom made lasagna and she put it on my plate and I didn't want it. And I was like, no, it looks gross. She's like, you're going to sit there until you finish that. And I just wouldn't eat it. But
are you serious?
I was a picky kid, man. And you know what? But what's interesting is, after all that, you know, as I started to grow up and after I guess my parents kind of gave up on trying to make me try different things, I just tried different things on my own. And I think the one thing that made me start trying new foods more than anything was working in a kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was just like the food was around me and I'd try it and be like, it's pretty good. You know, I would never eat chicken wings. I hated chicken wings because I didn't normally eat chicken wings. So I don't eat chicken wings, but they were there. And I tried them. I loved them. Now I love chicken wings.
Of course you do.
And you know what? That's what I mean. Being exposed to them, having those foods around you constantly, right? And maybe thinking back, it was more of like a thing. Because when I think of that lasagna incident, it was mom's making lasagna tonight. She's never made lasagna before for us, you know, and we've never seen this food before. Here it is. Eat it. Well, a kid's going to be like, no. I've never seen this
Just
before.
give me that mac and cheese that you've been making every time for dinner.
Dude, quick thing. I had microwave pancakes for a year.
Whoa.
Every morning. And then I had microwave blueberry waffles for a year. Every morning. And that was just because it was the thing that I was exposed to the most.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just common for me. It was a habit. And I think in that way, seeing that lasagna for the first time was, I have never seen this before. I do not want to try it. And maybe that's more of a child's mentality because now if I haven't seen anything before, I will try it.
Exactly.
But I think exposure is a big thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it can totally alter the way you think, right?
Yep.
Because, you see other people who I guess it goes to kind of like who you love and who you trust who are doing this like type of behavior, and then you want to, in a sense, mimic it.
Yeah.
Right? So you're mimicking your environment, your behavior around you. And you want to be more like them, right? So you're kind of looking up to them in a sense. And that's, I don't know, that's where eating healthy. Like, in a sense, like, that's where those kale shakes implemented. When I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, I kind of, looked up to him because of what he was doing and how, you know what I'm saying? How, what benefit he was getting from it, how...
Yep. Okay.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you're saying exactly.
Role model type material. Like he's being very successful.
Influence?
Successful.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So he's being very successful in a sense. So I kind of looked up to that.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to imitate that sort of. Wow, I am blanking out right now.
Behavior.
Yes, behavior.
Okay.
Nailed it. So that's what initiated that first change for me.
Yeah.
Or that also kind of coincides with a lot of behavior that we institute in our lives. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, definitely. Okay. Interesting.
Yes, indeed. Well, I don't know, unless you got anything more to talk about or as far as anything, but I feel like we covered a lot of ground during this podcast, surprisingly. Actually, not surprisingly at all. This is completely normal.
This is very normal, yeah.
Anything? What'd you learn, Chris? What'd you learn some stuff?
What did I learn? Oh my gosh, dude!
Did you hate that question?
I hate
What'd
that
you
question.
learn?
What'd you learn?
What'd you learn today?
Learned. Just leave it alone. God, no. You know what? I think we had a great talk on just behavior, and I think one of the, if I can just think off the top of my head, one of the coolest things that just thoughts that we threw around was how eating healthy affects your day-to-day life, and how it affects the different things that you do, and how you approach your mornings, how you approach and how those mornings then change the rest of your day. And so how eating healthy changes the activities that you do and the way that you do them, and the activities that you do give you the opportunity to eat healthier.
Right.
I don't watch TV anymore. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find, like, it's not a thing I'm gonna do, like, when I have nothing to do, you know.
Exactly.
And maybe that has to do with the fact that, you know, I've been eating healthier, and I don't feel the need to just sit and do nothing.
Right.
That's the second point, is the question that we brought up as to, does modern day entertainment and the idea of it relate with the common diets and the fast food diets? The fact that the common thing to do is to go home and watch TV, so it doesn't matter that you ate like a cheeseburger. Yeah, it doesn't matter that you ate that cheeseburger, because you're going to feel lethargic for the rest of the day anyway, and you don't feel it as much because you're watching
acting
TV.
in accordance with your activity.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thought that I think we brought up. Other than that, I mean, this was more of a thinking piece for me, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's very reflective. And
100%. Very, you get self analytical on this too.
And if I needed or wanted to,
I'm sure everyone could relate to certain experiences we've talked about, especially with habit and all that.
Definitely,
right?
And
falling into that, and now just being able to recognize that, being aware of it, maybe that can make you institute a change.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing that people need to really stop doing, is trying to just start on a diet, and I'm just gonna do a diet. So.
Start with a little change.
Yeah, start with a little change. Start with the don't eat shit diet, and
that's
move
right.
from there, people.
There you go.
Because I think that's a really good start. Now, obviously, everybody's different, but for the common person, I'd say that's a good way to go.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point to end on. I feel.
I believe so too.
10-4. Well, it's been good.
Do you have any idea of what you want to do for the next podcast? If you want to touch on it right now, or
I don't even know. Yeah, no, I haven't really thought about it. We got a bunch of ideas here that I was going to kind of go over afterwards, but yeah, no, I couldn't say off the top of my dome.
Okay, cool.
Because it all depends. I want to do maybe get George back in here and try and see if he was more interested in a certain topic and had more information that he could relay on, so that maybe I could pick some stuff out of my notes, and then he could take stuff out of his notes, and then we could culminate it then.
Opinion.
But yeah, I know we were kind of supposed to go into some sort of order where we hit nutrition, health, and fitness, but I just feel like we should just hit it all.
I think we should too, honestly. And at the same time, I mean, the most I would do is like say what the next episode's going to be about, and maybe we'll do that down the line.
Yeah,
but
we'll come up with it.
As of right now,
we had a good talk.
Yeah,
and we sum it up, and we hope you took away some good information from today.
Yeah,
wonderful.
How long do we go?
I don't know. See you.